Hello, everybody. So I'm Melvin from Tube, if anybody doesn't know who I am. It's lovely to see you all here virtually. Obviously, we're a sound company in the events industry, and there's obviously seeing potential issues with logistics and trucking into Europe, also music touring and things like that. So Ian Uttley from Stagefreight in Leeds, they've been a logistics provider for us doing trucking into Europe for 20 years. Must have done 150 shows with him over the many years, or projects. And yeah, he's always been a great provider to us, and he's got quite a lot of knowledge now in the sort of new legislation and Brexit and all those sorts of things, and the shipping over to Europe. So yeah, he's kindly offered to come on and have a chat to us all about what he knows. I believe he's doing it in 5 sections, and at the end of each section we'll be able to ask him some questions. Now, on your screen at the bottom, you'll have a Q&A button. So what we want you to do, if you've got a question, just type it into there, and then we can have a read through them here. And then if there's any, basically the appropriate ones will bring you live onto screen, and then you can have a chat to Ian at the end of each section about what your question is, basically. So feel free to pop any questions into the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So I'd like to introduce Ian to you now. Hello, Ian, and how are you doing?
Hi, Melvin. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, we've been, just so people know, we've been trading for 36 years as Stagefreight. I bought the business with another partner 6 years ago, and we've grown 4 times the size since we bought it. The aim is to be double again. We've got 40 odd trucks, we've got 100 odd trailers kicking around. And just while it is being recorded, we might as well plug that I can also do your crew buses and splitter buses, flights, and we can offer you warehousing as well, which we're just buying. But what we didn't have in our business plan was COVID. Nobody did. And then Brexit's turned out a little bit worse than we feared, although many of us expected, unfortunately. So what I'll do, I'll go back to where we all started with an ECMT permit in 1959, which was basically an agreement for 43 countries for pre-agreed truck movements throughout Europe. Then we got the EU Act of 1996, which gave us full dispensation for any EU truck to move anywhere in the EU without any barriers. Cabotage rules still enforced at that point, but was still in they were there, but nobody ever enforced them. And then Brexit of 2021 has taken all that away. That's all gone. I probably don't need to say any more about Brexit. Now, ECMT permits. ECMT permits are an annual permit which we can get. There is only 1,260 annual permits for the UK, and that is per truck. There was something like 160,000 people applied for them. We didn't get any. A lot of major players didn't get any either. They were allocated, would you believe, on a potluck basis, not on what you actually did. But not to worry, you can get a short-term ECMT permit, 30-day permit. They're limitless. You can have as many as you like throughout the year. They do cost, but it's not a great deal, and is the way forward. So what we're going to cover first is cabotage. It's quite an important thing, and it's the big word at the moment is how we're going to get around the tours. There is ways around it. We'll come on to that. Cabotage rules are that they apply to every vehicle over a 7.5 ton. So if you've got a van going abroad, yes, it's going to need an ATA carnet for any commercial equipment, but it's not subject to cabotage rules, which basically cabotage rules are if you've got an ECMT permit, you're allowed 3 moves. If you haven't got the ECMT permit, you're allowed 2 moves. So it depends what show you're putting on and where you're putting it on. For conferences and exhibitions, you might not need one. I would always advocate getting one, personally. On the second move, that's you've then got 7 days to be back in the UK. That's on the second move. Now, any move with any load on whatsoever, whether it be empties or one part left on the truck, is classed as a move. If it's empty, it doesn't count as a move. So we can tip and go off to parking the next day. That doesn't count. But if we put an empty on it or we leave something on it, that counts as your second move. Of course, that's got to be enforced. They've got to catch it. They have all admitted it's going to be very, very difficult to catch people. But essentially, I would say get very close to the venue on the first day, run in, tip on the morning, get your entries back on the same day and on the same driver's taco card, and back out again. That's the way around it. That's still your first move. So your second move only counts when you come back in. Previously, we've done a lot of road shows and a lot of breakout rooms in different hotels, and we've taken the truck round and dropped kit off at different places. We can no longer do that. It's just not going to be feasible under cabotage rules. What we can do and what we have done is we've opened up accounts with European van companies, so we can hire a van for you, and it would be a long wheelbase van. There's not many Lutons abroad, to be fair, so it'd be a long wheelbase van. We can take a ramp out for that if we need to, as a spare ramp, and put it on. And that isn't subject to cabotage rules, so we can still do the multi-drops, and our drivers will drive that for you, same as they will now with minibus driving or something like that. So the ideal would be the truck stays on site, and you can still use it as storage. It'd be a lot cheaper than hiring another room for empties and whatever. Point-to-point conferences and exhibitions are limitless. There's no. We can have as many of them as you like. We can just keep going on that and keep going backwards and forwards. Although we do have to keep coming back to the UK after on the third move. The way around it is, and it's good news. This it's only a 75. It's been capped at a £75 fine, which is damn sight cheaper than hiring another room or running the truck back to the UK and running it back out again. Unfortunately, we can't even fly the driver back on his own. The whole truck's got to come back. So we could leave the trailer on site, but the unit or the 18-tonner has to come back to the UK and back out again. So I would say we pay the £75 and crack on with it. You can ask me questions on that later. So what you need to be aware of, though, is that when our drivers drive the van for you, they're still subject to EU tachograph rules. So they can't work the 18-hour days. They do have to have the breaks. They have to have the legal breaks, but we're quite happy in there and doing that. Crew buses are exempt from cabotage unless you're carrying commercial kit or they've got a trailer attached. And there's some more good news on that later, which will come out, and it'll happen next week. But I'll tell you at the end of all this, or if somebody asks me the question, I'll tell you what's happening. I think there's a couple of things, really. The cabotage does apply to EU trucks as well. So an EU truck, the only advantage an EU truck has, they only have to leave the country. So if they're in Spain, they could nip to France or into Portugal and come back, and that's fine. And that's the only advantage they have. So if we opened a depot abroad, basically all we'd be doing, I think it's worth paying the £75. Because all we'd be doing is spreading the cost and doubling the cost of our fleet. And, we'd break the fleet up and spread it over two areas, an EU registration truck and a UK registration truck. And it's going to cost. I'll come on to more of that cost later. But right now, that's the cabotage rules in a nutshell. Have we got any questions on that?
We have just got a couple of questions come through, so we'll just get those people up onto screen in a second. Just give us a sec with that. Okay, so we've got Julian Ward coming in a moment. Ward. You know Julian, don't you?
I do.
Just give us a sec, we'll just get him through. There we go. Hi, Jules. Are you all right?
Yeah, very good. How are you? All good?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Good.
Go for it, Jules.
Mine was a very short question. So this cabotage fine, then, is it a localized thing? Where does the driver get caught out?
It will be it's the police, basically, the gendarme, the douane. Whichever country you're in, their police, they've got to prove it. That's what I keep saying. They've got to prove it that you've moved, and that's where you win. To be honest, because it's going to be very, very, and they've all admitted the same thing. It's like in the UK. It's why we don't really enforce it in the UK unless you're caught doing something else.
Yes.
If you're, if you've done something wrong and they catch you doing something wrong, yes, they'll have a look at it. If you're not doing anything wrong, the chances are they'll never bother.
Got it. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great stuff. Thank you. So we've got Helen Gorton next. Helen, are you there? Should be coming in any second. This is where I fail as a presenter, but I'm not a presenter really. So there we go. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's just coming in now. So Helen works at an organisation called Manchester International Festival. And here she is now. Hi, Helen.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk about EU trucks, do they have to go back to their country of registration, or do they just cross the border and come back?
They literally just cross the border and come back. Which is quite good for them. But to be fair, by the time you've done that, you've probably spent more money than it is paying your £75 fine.
Yeah.
If you get caught. And that will be factored into any transport quote you get. That running out of the country and running back will be factored into it, and the extra cost of having a EU truck, registered EU truck abroad. So what we're thinking of doing, or what we believe we should be doing, is keeping it as cheap as we can, keeping the cost down, and just paying the fine, and we can prove which fines we paid and when we paid them. They're not going to be spurious. They'll all have a receipt. So, and that way you know exactly where we are.
Great, thank you.
Cool. Okay. Great, thanks for that. And then we've got Tom Shields Barrett on. He should be here any second. He's just coming through now. Here we go. There we go. Hi, Tommy, are you all right?
Yeah, you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Cheers. So I'm just... I understand these cabotage rules have been there and largely ignored. Which is why I still don't really understand what it means. Is it that you are limited to a single drop, essentially?
Essentially, yeah, by the rules, yes. If like I say, you've got to be caught doing that. But I think what they're trying to do is limit the number of truck moves in any one country. Now, what the cabotage rules are there more for general haulage, so you're not doing 10 drops in one country and taking that country's work away from a local truck. Mm-hmm. Event trucks are completely different, and that's why I think I anticipate hardly ever being stopped, if I'm honest. We're exporting and importing now with no trouble. The only thing they're looking at on the general haulage side is your notes to see how many drops and collections you've done. But we don't carry that on event work. So
it specifically where touring's concerned, if you've got 5 shows in one country, technically, just so I understand, can the trucks only go to the first show and then they're supposed to go home again? I don't quite get the rule. Specifically with touring.
Yeah, for touring, you'll have an ECMT permit, so you're allowed 3 moves. Technically, on the second
3 moves, okay, right.
Yeah, on the second move, you've got 7 days to get back to the UK. Technically, now I would say for any tour, you book it as 3 in any one country, then you move to another country, and if you have to go back, you have to go back, because that way they've got to prove you've done more than them 3 moves, and if the truck can stay on site, it's perfect, because you can move along. Yeah, actually, what you should say is it's 3 moves in the EU, but because it's the police in each country there's regulating this, if once you move to another country, they don't know where you've been, so we can say, we've had a complete swap. And that's the way around it. There's always a way.
Okay, but what does ECMT stand for?
European Charter of Managers.
Okay.
But if you just put ECMT into it, but we can pull the ECMT, we can pull them up, we can get them in minutes for you. Well, say minutes. It takes us a minute to apply for it. It takes a couple of days for it to come back, and we get the permit. But we can get them, no problem. They're limitless. There's no limit on the number of ones you can get, and you just apply and get them.
And those short-term ones last for 30 days, and it's
30
still
days.
it's technically 3 moves per country is essentially what we're saying it's limited to.
What they're saying. Yeah. If you, what I would say is budgeting, even if you're budgeting 75 quid per truck per country, or
Yes.
if you've got 5 moves, click it in for the last 2 and budget that. The chances of getting billed that are very, very slim. We won't bill it if we don't get charged it.
Yes.
But it's the way of doing it. It's the way of doing it.
Yeah. I get it now. Thank you.
Okay.
Nice one. Thanks, Tommy. Just a related question to that, Ian. So if you were saying that if they go from one country to another and then back again, they've got no real way of knowing where you've been before that. If that's like a music tour that's documented, it's a tour, and therefore all the venues are already advertised. So in effect, they've got a trail of what you've been doing. So you can't claim that you've not been doing that. Could they come back on that respect as well?
They can't come back retrospectively. They've got to do it while they're doing it. And that's the trick, really. We aren't going to lose a truck. We're not going to get a truck, immobilised. They can't do that.
Yeah.
All they can do, and it's been agreed that it is a cap of £75. That's it. There is no other fine. There's no fines. Other than that, there's nothing else that can go on. You pay the fine, you move on.
Cool.
You just got to do it very cleverly, and the drivers have got to be very clever about what they're doing and how they word things as they go through.
Yeah. And then just Helen's just come back and said also, is the third move another venue or the final leg home?
It's the final leg home. That's the third move. So unless you
it's effectively 2 venues and then back home.
Yeah, if you're doing it right, probably 2 venues and back, and the truck needs to stay at the venue each time. Or we hire a fleet of vans and we move the kit around in vans because the vans aren't covered by cabotage.
Yeah.
7.5 ton we can't hire 7.5 ton, but you can hire vans and move stuff, to local areas, local breakout rooms and things like that. I'm not talking massive shows, but it can be done.
Yeah. Okay.
And like I say, it's got to be proved that you've done it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to move on to the next section then?
Yeah. So next section is carnets. Love ATA carnets. Again, we can provide these for you. What I will say, and is that the likes of Rocket, Sound Moves, and Global are all one company, basically owned by DHL. And we've stepped away from that because we used to use Rocket as well. We've stepped away from that and we do it independently. And I believe that's the way because you're going to get a better price than a competitive price. If you get a cartel price and all your carnets up, you're never going to get a competitive quote. So we can provide them. We can do 2, 3, 6 or 12-month carnets, whichever you prefer. There's the cost of the carnet and the percentage of the written down value, which I would, as you all know, write that down to an eBay price or a used price because whilst it's got to be realistic, you don't need to pay all that money for a carnet. So to make it as cheap as you can, what that does, and what I will say is that doesn't affect our insurance cover in any way. Our insurance cover is full. It's like for like. It's not paid per ton, it's paid for the kit. So it doesn't affect that at all in any way whatsoever. So write your kit down. What I would say at this time is, and we probably did 10, 15 carnets last year. We were expecting come September-ish onwards, hopefully, we're expecting to do 20 a day. And there isn't the capacity in the UK at the moment to cover that. So don't leave it to the last minute. Yes, we can do them. Yes, we can do them in 6-hour turnaround during office hours. But please don't leave it that late because it's very, very risky and you could end up, you will end up paying through the nose for it. So we get all that, the carnets, each in that carnet, what's previously happened is some suppliers have supplied other suppliers with kit and said, just put it on your list. That cannot happen now. Each supplier needs to be registered as an exporter. They need to have an EORI number if they're going to Northern Ireland. It's an EORIXI number. Please don't go to Northern Ireland just at the moment. It's a nightmare. I'm sure that will get sorted eventually. It needs the weight, as you know, the description and the country of origin and the cost on that, and which box it's in. It's really important which box it's in, especially if you're doing multi-trucks. There could be a problem with multi-trucks. We are proposing we supply you with colour coding systems and big labels so you can stick the number in and you know which is going on which truck and which kit's needed in which box. But everything needs to be on that carnet. If you forget something and have to take, say, a printer with you on the plane, you need a carnet. If we put one on the back of a scooter, we're going to need a carnet for it. And that all costs, them extra bits cost, to make sure everything's on the truck. Obviously, carnet trucks can be inspected. If they're wrong, it's massive delays. The customs will always take the load off for you and have a look through, but they never ever put it back on. So you've got a costing delay and you've got a costing finding a crew to find it, put it back on. So we get them right. We supply these labels, they're all on. The back 10 foot of every trailer is essential. If you're going to hide something, hide it at the front. But that is only for kit that is coming back to the UK. We'll move on to everything else next. Now, I was asked on a seminar the other day I was doing, and what happens with confidential waste. The answer is you send a box marked confidential waste, an empty box marked confidential waste, 0 value, and you send that out, and then it comes back with the confidential waste in. It doesn't cost you any more. It's just another item you have to list, but you can't bring it back in if it's not on that list. So yeah, that's where we are with them. Now there was some talk of it on multi-trucks, it being 1 carnet per truck. That isn't the case. That people said that were wrong. You can get 1 carnet for multiple trucks. However, again, they need to be all right. They need to be in convoy. So I would suggest maybe 1 carnet for 5 trucks and off you go. Loads going out are probably going to be checked more than loads coming in. But they could be checked coming in, but very unlikely. So yeah, don't leave it too late. Get your freight forwarder on board if it's not us. Get them on board as soon as possible. Tell them what you're expecting to do. Don't leave it too late. And just organise. If you want to send us kit lists, we can organise everything for you from there in. And just what we're going to try and do is take as much hassle off you as possible and put it onto ourselves and build that in into what we do. So any questions on carnets?
Just a second. We've got we've got one again. If you bring Julian through, I've just got one other question coming about the cabotage that's just come in now, and it's kind of a suggestion. Could you take a trailer over into Europe and then get a European plated tractor unit to do the actual tour itself?
You could, yes. But what you need to be aware of is that there's probably 800 event trucks in the UK. There's probably only 200 event trucks in Europe. There isn't the capacity out there for a low ride truck to come and take that away. And the trouble then you get is that our insurance doesn't cover that load. It's on the haulier's insurance, the other haulier. So, and a lot of European hauliers only do £50 a tonne. So if anything goes wrong or that trailer goes missing, yeah, you're not going to get paid a great deal.
Yeah, there's a liability issue in there.
There is, and that's why that's why it falls down on cross transfer. We've had a look at this. We have got EU partners who we trust, but they don't have the same insurance as us, and that's
okay. Right. Cool. We've got back to Canada. So we've got Julian back again. Julian, hello. Oh, turn your mic on, Jules. Oh, why can't we hear you?
Any better?
There we go. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, all good. Right, so it's just a quickie then. You mentioned that each of with the supply point, for instance, let's say you got a truck with sound, lights, and video from 3 separate suppliers, that's one carnet for the truck, right?
Yeah, you can do a mixed load. Mixed load's not a problem, but it's one carnet. So we need to clear the sheet from each one of them, bring it together, put it in one carnet. The reason I'm pushing for us to do it, and it is that we then know when we go to port, before we get to port, we know that's right. We get the paperwork checked. We get the drivers all get a COVID check, so you know when they reach you, they're fine and free from COVID. But it's important that paperwork's right, because the delays, if it isn't, are truly horrendous. You know, we had one 2 weeks ago, sat for 8 days waiting for clearance, and it turns out the original paperwork was only slightly wrong, but they tried everything else before they went back to the original paperwork and put that right. So that's why we're saying, let us do it, let us handle it, take the pain off you. We sort it all out. We sort it on the last collection. Now, the difficult one for getting them kit lists is, I would say, set guys, because their wood has to be stamped. It has to be EU wood that's allowed to travel. They have to be aware of what they're going to get rid of there and not bring back. The days of, just throw this on the back of your trailer to bring it back, they're long gone. They're long gone. We're never going to be able to do that again.
That was going to be another one of my questions, or very sort of add-on questions to that. So do each of the suppliers need to have the relevant export license, or is that
because
for us
what
to gain
happens
as the production company?
Yeah, what happens is that kit list effectively acts as a security document, and it has to be them that's saying their kit is worth. Now, if you supply something in, so if you say if Melvin hires from another sound company to bulk the pack up, that kit becomes him because he's supplied it in.
Okay.
If that other sound company deals directly with the end client, that has to be their kit list.
So effectively, where there's a production company involved, the production company is the person responsible for carnet, even though, like you say, it might be wise to use somebody like you to prep it. It kind of boils down to us. So it doesn't matter where it all comes from in some respects, as long as we're licensed.
You need to make sure each one is registered. Each one's got a kit list, because it does act as the security document that's needed to get out of the country.
Cool. That answers my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, no worries.
Thanks, Jules. We've got Tommy back again. He's just come in to ask you a quick question as well. Here we go.
I'm presuming that you only need to stamp the carnet entering the EU and not stamp it between all the countries within the EU.
That's right, yeah. The only thing we need to stamp, and we'll come on to this, is the merchandise and consumables. We'll come on to that next. But it only needs one stamp into the EU. And then obviously if you're going to Switzerland and Norway or anywhere else, that's the same. It's the same thing there.
Cool.
Great stuff. Thanks, Tommy. Okay. Thanks, Ian. Let's move on to the next section then, please. Thank you.
Merchandise, consumables, which is vinyls on a window, T-shirts, pens, booklets, anything that's not coming back to the UK has to be on a T form, an export form. Again, we can do these for you, but the thing is, it cannot come back. You can, however, fly it back through UPS or whatever, TNT. Obviously there's a cost to that, and there's a re-import price to that. And what happens is consumables are mainly tariff-free, so don't worry about them. T-shirts, bigger things you're going to give away may have VAT implications at different countries depending on what it is, what type it is, and which country you're going into. We check all that before we go. Once we get a schedule, we can provide you with costs. With that T form, we have to stop at every border again to get that checked out and stamped, which then means we have to go through major border posts because we can't go through the smaller ones because they're just not there anymore in the EU. But you may find Spain being an obvious one. There is definitely tax going on that. So it's not. The other thing is, and I've heard this one where you have to have a separate merchandise truck and whatever. That's not right. You can mix the two. There's a system fault at the moment with boating, with the ferries, but essentially you book on with the T form, and that booking goes out, and you get the carnet stamped, and that's the way around it. And you should book on with one or the other, but that is the best way around, because then you know your export's been done. If that isn't right, again, if the carnet isn't right, if the T form isn't right, yeah, expect delays, because they will stop it. And they will, if they're not being pre-notified in other countries, stop you again and delay you, because they like to be pre-notified that it's coming through. And we will do all that for you, take all that pain away. So delays wise, we need to be aware of paperwork problems. The only time we get a delay in the UK is paperwork problems. 99% of problems going out are the wrong paperwork. So again, that's why we're pushing to let's get this sorted for you. Border crossing formalities, maybe delays there if the T forms aren't right. And Kent permits, we have to apply for a Kent permit to drive to Dover. We have to get a permit to drive in his own country now, which is fantastic. But I have found a lot of freight forwarders who are charging £50 a time for that. If whether you use it or not, please don't let them charge you that, because it's free. Our drivers do them on the way to port. So if they're charging you for that, that's wrong. So please don't go for that. When we get to port, we get them cleared before we get to Kent or before we get to Dover. We're cleared and to run straight in. So we not subject to the delays you're seeing on the M20 and the M2. We're already clear. So we can go straight in. And the clearance process starts as soon as that truck drives on the boat. So as soon as it drives on, our border force notice whichever border force they're going to, whichever country they're going to. And when you come off the other end, there's a traffic light system, and it's green for go, orange for they need to check something because they're not sure. And if you see a red, it's really not good. There's something seriously wrong. While we're on it, Ireland, Republic of Ireland is a carnet. Northern Ireland is trouble. It's a lot of delays. You've got to do a customs declaration now. We have to do the RIXI number. There's a good vehicle movement service we have to report to, and a movement reference number we need to supply. And the delays are massive. Even the likes of John Deere have stopped sending parts there now because it's just not worth it to them. I'm sure that's going to settle down. I hope it's going to settle down, because Northern Ireland's struggling at the moment to get parts in and out. So any questions on that we've gone through?
Great stuff, thank you. Just one clarification question at the moment is what is the T form? How is it written? How can they find it? What does it stand for? T form.
It's just a transfer form, transfer to another country, transfer export
transfer form. Okay.
Yeah, so and all you're doing is transferring goods from the UK and taking it abroad. So there will be a duty to pay on that. But we can provide that, again, prove that it's the same kind of kit list as you use for a carnet, effectively. It tells you what it is, the item, the cost, the value, the weight. And what you will do as an exporter, and if you can't do it, if we can't find them, we can do it for you, is you need to find the correct code for the correct item, the correct tax code. Because each item will have a tax code. It's an infinite number of tax codes out there to apply to these, and it's an awful thing, but you need to get the right number, because if it's the wrong number and they have a look, you're going to get fined. And if it's the wrong number, you could be paying more tax than you need to.
Yeah. Okay, we've got Tommy back again for the next question. Cheers.
Do you have to list merch quantities on a T form?
Yeah. So you got to say there's 10,000 t-shirts.
Yeah,
and
okay.
that can stay in the EU. That can stay in the EU as long as you like. If you're going on, that can stay on as long as you like. And if you send another truck out with more merchandise, you need another export form, but that can be transferred onto the original truck as well. But none of it can come back unless you bounce it up and fly it.
Yeah. And do you would you do the same thing as you do on a carnet, where you sort of down value it in terms of reducing import and export duty?
Yeah, it has to be a really realistic. Again, it has to be a realistic value, but it wouldn't be what you're going to sell it for, or the actual value. You need to knock it down again, yeah. Because again, it all comes back to the VAT that's being paid on it.
Yes, and so if you sell 5,000 shirts and you bring 5,000 back, are you getting hit the other direction as well?
Yeah, that's the way. Or we store them. We have got places we can store things over there. We take it to a store and we hold it there.
So another question is, in terms of the actual products themselves, does it include things like sales brochures and flyers and things like that? I guess a lot lower value in the giveaways rather than saleables.
Yeah, it does. That needs to be on the T form, because anything you print has to go on a T form. If you flew it out there, you'd be paying the same tax as you would by driving it. Except you'd probably get away with saying, there's 1,000 leaflets and put 2,000 on. They're not going to count the number of leaflets on there, and you need to write the cost down to make it as cheap as you can.
Brilliant. Okay. We've got Andrew Mills coming through as well. Hi, Andrew. You all right?
Hi, Mel. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good. What's your question?
Quick question. You've covered things like leaflets and brochures and things. Does it exhibition graphics, which is basically like a tension fabric system that you take out? The graphics usually get ditched. Would that need to go on the T form, or would that be on the carnet with your original kind of kit list?
If it fit on the truck, I would say put it on the carnet.
Right.
Because
okay.
just bring it back and ditch it.
Right.
Anything vinyls like for glass doors and things like that, as daft as it sounds, needs to go on a T form, with the pence cost against it. But essentially, if it goes on the truck, bring it back on the truck and dispose of it in the UK, because that's another thing. That's one of the reasons they do it is so you're not leaving anything and just filling their skips for landfill.
Okay. Right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's great. Let me see something else. So a bit of a going back question. Serial numbered items on the carnet, do they have to go back in the same flight case that they came in?
Yes. Unfortunately,
Sadly,
yes.
they do.
So anything, I'm really sorry. Yeah, and this is going to be a massive problem for tours. I know that, and it's the reason why we're bringing out these coloured systems and to try and make it easier. But basically, if you put a serial lamp in box number 1, that lamp's got to go in box number 1 for the whole tour. It's going to be a nightmare for the get out of anywhere, to be honest. But that's how it's going to be. Or at least make sure your back 10 foot on the trailer is absolutely right. What we're also doing is doing a load plan system, so we know where each box is on that trailer. As we load it up, we can create a load plan, so we can find things very easily. It's trying to make things a little bit more streamlined. So if a customs agent says, I want to see this, you can pinpoint where it is on trucks. Well, it's right front there. Do you want that, or do you want this one at the back? And they're generally going to pick one at the back from you. But you can point to that, and you show them the load plan. It shows how efficient you are and how organised you are, and that chances of that truck getting stripped are very, very, very slim, because you're doing it right. And that's something we're creating now. We're creating that system at the moment.
Brilliant. Okay. Interesting one from Tommy here again. Go for it, mate.
Just going back to the T forms, presumably you could just order all your merch and all your consumables from someone in the EU and pick it up en route once you're over there to avoid all that.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think what a lot of people are saying is they're not sure of the quality before they get it, and that's why they want to take it from the UK. Same with the reason why we take the sound kit, the lighting kit and everything else from the UK, is because you're assured of that quality when it happens. And I think that's what people are saying. And to be honest, you'll still pay EU tax on it. You'll pay EU tax on it.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't think it's very, very much different in doing it either way. Certainly you could top up from EU sites and things like that. Yeah, no problem at all.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Great. Thanks. Right. Do you want to go on to the next bit then, Ian? Cheers.
Next bit. Own account trucks. Now, people have their own trucks and think they can get away with moving into Europe without the necessary paperwork. Where they think that from, I do not know, because it is definitely wrong. If somebody has an EU, their own account truck, they must still follow the same procedures. It's going to a commercial show event. There are no shortcuts around any of this, unfortunately. They are still got to do the carnage, still got to do the T form, still got to do the cabotage or pay the fines. So what you just need to be aware that all that's going to do, and if they're trying to cut corners, your show will not happen or it will be severely, severely delayed. And that is a worry. So be aware of that. Now, what I want to do next is go to what a lot of people have done in bridgeheading, where they're opening a depot abroad. The pros are, the truck can stay out. It only has to go out of the country and back in. It's easier access. We've looked at sites all over the EU. We've looked at one in Romania, we looked at one in Germany, we looked at one in Netherlands. Unfortunately, my command of the Dutch, German and Romanian language is very, very limited. Command of the English isn't that good. I'm from Yorkshire. So, like I said, all we're doing is we've got to have more costs. You can't brass black it. You can't just have a post box. It's got to be a definite yard. It's got to have a proper operator's license, which you'll have to retrain in that language for. It's got to have a definite office. It's got to employ a national person, a local. It's got to have extra insurance. That all the drivers who drive any EU trucks, even if they're English and they're driving an EU truck, have to have their driver CPC in that country where it's registered. The trucks have to go to that country once a year to be MOT'd. The costs just keep mounting, and I cannot for the life of me think it's better to do that than pay the £75 fine. The costs are just insurmountable on between the two. I'm qualified to run a fleet in Europe and all over the world, but I'm not qualified to open a depot in another country, and that, it's a bit mad, but equally, why would I want to? So the thing is, we're keeping it same. Even if we put people out, we need work visas and things like that. At the moment, we've got 90 days. I think it'll change. When I said earlier things are changing, the thing that's changing is that Formula One go out this week, and Formula One have received a waiver. So they don't have to come back in 90 days. They don't have to get out of the country and after 3 drops. They're not subject to cabotage. All the logistics have been given a waiver. This is mainly because the owner of Red Bull is a very powerful Austrian who his Red Bull team is based in the UK, like most of the Formula One teams are, and he's pushed it and got this waiver. Now, it's not been announced. You won't find it anywhere, but I know this has happened. So now that's set a precedence, and that precedence is what we should push for and on your forums, Melvin, and things. There's 2 things to push for. One is that they've got a waiver, so every tour should have a waiver as well. And the other is the carbon footprint that's been caused by a tour having to come back to the UK or move out of any country, even if it's done by EU trucks. The carbon footprint, the pollution that's been created by that is simply wrong. It's just wrong. And in anybody's eyes, and when we try to get a greener planet, to do that is wrong. And there we have it in a nutshell. If anybody's still awake, have you any questions?
Hi there. Yeah, we've got one question coming. Just a quick one about, do you need a carnet if you're going to fly over some small test equipment or something like that? So maybe a handheld sound level meter or some other testing kit that you fly out with you to do a job and then come back again, sort of value of about £1,000, £2,000 of goods, something like that. Do you need a carnet for that?
Yeah, anything that's been used for a commercial purpose that's been paid for to appear commercially has to have a carnet. Now, you might get away with a laptop, 2 laptops in your bag, stay there for personal use. You might not get away with 6 or 7. So anything that's used on a commercial show, it's like a band going on tour. If they want to carry that guitar in a bus, that bus is then, or go in a car, like a lot of orchestras, the celloists will want to take their own car with their own cello in it. That car has to have a car name because it's going to a commercial show. If it's for personal use, it's fine. No problem. You can take what you like. So the answer is, unfortunately, yes, if a cameraman wants to carry his camera and they're very precious about the cameras with them, they're going to have a car name for that because it's a commercial piece of kit. Unless you can blag that he's taking a massive camera to film his holidays. They need it. It's. I know it's mad. I know, and you think of all the things that people have carried on planes just to get there because it's at the last minute. We need to take this for this. It's still going to have the necessary paperwork, and that's
and similarly for a musician wanting to take their own guitar out and stuff like that. I mean, obviously they can construe it as being personal use and things like that, but at the end of the day, if they're going to be down the line with it, in theory, you need it, don't you?
Yeah, if it is their own personal guitar, that's fine. But as soon as it's into a show and seen on the stage, it's a commercial piece of kit, and so they need a car name. It is truly horrendous. It's and I'm sorry to break that news to you, but that's just how it is. There's no way around it unless they claim it's personal use. Further down the line, if it's seen on stage, somebody has to prove that that's been carried through as personal use. But
cool. And then a follow to that as well. Would that also, I think you know the answer, but would it also cover stills cameras? And if so, how do we get one for those? How do we get a car name, I guess, for those single items? So if somebody as a freelancer wants to go over and take a piece of kit over, how do they go about getting a car name for those things?
For a stills camera, you just basically claim it's your own for your own use. You can take things for your own use. That doesn't need a car name. You can take your laptop for your own use. You can take whatever you want for your own use. If you want to take your xylophone out, Melvin, and play that in your hotel room, you can take that for nothing. But if you go and put a show on with that, then you're going to need a car name. And unfortunately,
then escalating that to like a video, a broadcast camera where you're not going to get away with that. Basically, it's going to get looked at. So,
you'll get looked at for sure.
So how do they go about getting a car name for that? Would they have to go to someone like you, or can they do it directly with a body?
The exact same way, either through us or through anybody they want. Obviously, there's a cost to the car name, and then there's a value, potentially the value. And that is always going to be the case. And generally these things, most of the things we carry on are last minute, we need to take that. And that's where the real difficulty is going to apply because to the turnaround of the running time to go.
And what's so this is from the same person who's asking the same questions about these smaller items, so not a truckload of stuff. Roughly what are they talking about for a price of a carnet for, a broadcast camera or something like that?
I've heard some people charging £800-900 for a carnet plus a percentage of the cost of the kit. Basically, I think I'd weigh about 400 quid, 450 quid on a carnet, and then obviously the bond goes down.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. And we're independent and we can move that up and down and make it fit. It depends how many carnets you want in a year, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's got to be that, if you take a last minute thing, what we will do, and the other reason where I'm saying send us the kit list, let us do them, is that we leave that carnet open and we don't close it and we don't pay the bond on it until the day or 2 days before. So the week before, if you're going to have to take some more kit, just let me know, we can add it on. And we're not paying extra to have that added onto a carnet because it's just sat there open, ready to be done and completed. And that's the way we do it. I know a lot will say, no, you let us know, you give us the list, that's your carnet done. But that's what they're looking for, to recharge again for another carnet to go with an additional bit of kit. And I think that's wrong. Again, to me, there's easier ways of doing it. Everything.
And what's what's the percentage value of the bond? You might have said it earlier. I didn't catch it. If you did, what's the value of the bond?
It's generally 1 or 2% of the value of the load. So you can generally work out a 45 footer will generally come in around about £2,000. So you got £2,000 plus your carnet cost. So you're at 2.5, but obviously you get that back.
Yes, yeah. And does that come back fairly swiftly, or is that held for a long time?
It has done. It has done in the past, and now it's an unknown because there's going to be so many of them. It's a real unknown that we're going into. We don't know. But basically, as soon as it gets stamped back into the UK, the can is returned. You should get your bond back within the week. That's what's always happened previously. Now, it should be the same, but the sheer amount of them may cause a problem.
Cool. We've got Julian back on again. Hi, Julian. Go for it.
Hi, me again. Sorry about this. This one's just, again, on the small kind of carnets. In the old days, what we used to do for a little tiny carnet for maybe a shoot kit or something, you'd go straight to the Chamber of Commerce and sort it out with them. Is that still, a channel that's open to us?
It is, yeah. It's still there, that channel. You can still do that. But what I have to tell you is the freight forwarders tying all that up and the amount that's going to go through on carnets is frightening, to be honest. And will you be able to just go in and do an odd one? Theoretically, you should be able to do that. You should, and that's how it should be. But in practice, if they've got somebody who's putting them 30 a day through, they're going to go with them and get them sorted first. And that's
So what you're saying is theoretically you can, but good luck to you.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Sorry.
All right, fine. Yeah, no worries. That answers my question. Thank you.
We do have just one other question as well. Do you need it? Oh, sorry, that's been answered already. So yeah, that's all good. Cool. I've got another section to go on to.
No. That's where we are at the moment. Like I said, the news is this cap that's come through, the £75 cap that we need to bear in mind on the fine. We need to bear in mind the time to do an ATA carnet. We need to bear in mind making sure that paperwork's right long before, and your suppliers are all ready to do that list with the relevant EOI numbers and security numbers on there. Because if they're not, it only adds to delays. And whatever we do as transport, as suppliers of kit in the UK, we're the best at that in the world, and that'll continue. And there'll always be a way around these things. And being British, we will find a way around it. That's what we do. We're stubborn that way. Just believe in ourselves. It'll come back and we can do it, and it'll work. And the other one is the Formula One thing. The Formula One's massive. The Formula One's set a precedence now that people need to jump on, to be honest, and say, hang on a minute, they've got a waiver. Where's my waiver? Certainly,
has anybody started any sort of awareness? Like you say, it's not in the media. Has anyone started an awareness of that, or obviously government petitions are a big thing at the moment. Is anyone doing anything like that as yet?
Unbelievably, and these go on for 4 or 5 months at a time. The Formula One guys, and nobody's batting an eyelid about it. It's just going to happen. It's mad that it isn't being publicised, and the reason it's not being publicised is that they're going to have to give that to everybody. Yeah. Potential.
Well, thanks, Ian. We just hang on a second.
I'll go away with it.
What's the lead time for documents to you for a ferry crossing?
Ferry crossing.
Yeah,
we're on number plate recognition ferry port, so we can jump on any ferry at any time, unless it's something like to Tallinn or to Turku or something out of the ordinary. Yes, we have to book them, but certainly the channel is open to us, and we get on the next available boat, and we can pay for priority booking as well, so we can run straight through, and they always save some spaces on the back. If they know we're coming, they'll save them spaces, which we do as well. So yeah, we're pretty well. We've got accounts with every ferry company in the world, and can get anywhere in the world.
Yeah, great stuff. Cool. On that F1 thing as well, I'll get in contact with the We Make Events body, because obviously they're in touch with DCMS and can actually, make some noise about these sorts of things. Because it's a massive thing, that, isn't it?
It really is. It's huge. It's huge, and and that's why they keep not promoting it and not saying anything about it. But they're not going to get away with it.
Absolutely. No. Well, thank you very much. I guess if anyone else has any questions that sort of come to you in the near future, pop it onto the WhatsApp group, and Ian's on there as well. So, you can probably contact Ian directly off the back of that WhatsApp group.
Yeah, my email address is Ian@stagefreight.com, and anybody can email me anytime, and I'll get back to you with the answer. And if I don't know it, I'll look it up and find out with the trade bodies.
Yeah.
We do sit on a lot of trade bodies. I do go to a lot of meetings with trade bodies and with the government, oddly enough. You don't get anything out of any of them, to be fair. Completely useless and complete waste of time. But you've just got to make things happen, and that's what we do.
Great stuff. Thanks, Ian. Really appreciate your time. I know, getting a few messages there of people saying thanks so much for what you've done, and it's really useful information. So thank you very much indeed.
No worries.
So thank you. Cheers. See you later.
Right, see you in a bit.
So thank you everyone for joining in. Obviously, Ian did a little plug of his business at the start of this, so I'll just do a quick plug of what we're doing at Tube. We've set up a facility called theStream.Studio. So we're making this kind of TV style environment on the front end of Zoom webinar meetings, and giving an interactive feel to sort of virtual events, and trying to put a live event sort of spin onto it now. So if you need anything like that from us, or if you know anybody who's looking for those kind of services, give us a shout. So that's my little plug. Thanks for joining us today. It's been great to see a few of you, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.